Welcome to a different perspective where civil commentary is priority. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and make a quick intro and just jump into the video because I had an opportunity to talk to somebody that is someone I've been anticipating to have a conversation with because, for one, they're a native Texan, and two, they are very confused of why people consider them, or it's a one person, I'm saying they, he is very confused of why people see him as being very political and right leaning. Well, when the pandemic started a year ago, pretty much, he was making a lot of political videos and it was outside of his realm, and he'd always made comments and he was always transparent. He was never political, even before he made a lot of COVID concern videos, I guess you can say. And his brother is very political too. So I just don't understand why he likes to just act dumbfounded of how he's gotten a reputation of getting a little bit more political than most video game content creators. And, that's fine. But at the same time, if you're going to talk politics, you're going to have to accept the consequences that come with it. People are going to have questions. They're going to challenge you. They're going to want to hold you accountable. They're not going to agree with you. So if you don't have good enough answers to defend what your beliefs are to make a good argument or whatever, people will start ridiculing you and all that. And you can see a little bit of that because he was reading something about McAfee or something like that. It was a little bit more on the conspiracy side. And the first guest before me was like, oh yeah, the guy that's allegedly dead, So he was just like, come on, Craig, that doesn't sound like legit. But whatever you like to read and whatever you like to dive into, that's cool, But politics is something that can be easily referenced. And let's go ahead and discuss that because I had asked Craig a couple of questions, and I was wondering who he would support more, Beto or Abbott, because he's one Texan from another, and he was just, he didn't really tell me which politician he preferred, so I didn't get a straight answer. Perhaps I could have asked him more directly, but I wanted to be nice. I didn't want to be confrontational. And the other question I had asked him was, like, if he had to choose two systemic issues to address, which would he prioritize and what solutions would he offer? And he couldn't think of anything. I had to help him. And, that's not something to giggle at him. It's just a sad fact that most people will have those answers. And that's why I want to normalize conversation. I want to make sure people are thinking a little bit more critically so we can focus on things that are just not silly and waste of time. They're just reality TV show, drama, enticing topics. So, poverty was his big, not poverty, not having male figures in the household, kids without fathers. That was his number one priority. So he had somebody post something, and Craig was saying, well, data speaks to me, that's what I respond to. Aren't like 60% of American kids growing up without a dad? So if that is your number one priority, I'm about accountability. So these are your politics, This is something that should matter to you. So if you want to say, politics don't matter to me. Well, having kids with no fathers doesn't matter to you because, like I addressed to him, everything's politics. When you go to the grocery store, when you have to deal with the cost of living with having kids, going to vacation on Hawaii, having to pay more luggage fees because your wife takes more suitcase than she should, because he was complaining about that. That's what I'm saying. I'm just trying to be friendly banter right there. But what do you believe in if you don't prioritize something that should be important? And I credit him for recognizing that as an issue. But shouldn't you get the stats right? I mean, that should be the lowest part of the rubric, to just like, hey, if something matters that much, I need to make sure I know what I'm talking about. And we should know more what we're talking about as Americans, as Texans, so we could hold our politicians accountable. Because that was another concern of Craig. He was like saying, well, they're getting away because they're making too much money. Well, for the reason that you're not paying attention. That's why. So, yeah, kids without fathers, it has gone up, but from 17% to 32%. So, yeah, it's like 60, what was the percentage that guy gave us? 60%. He almost went doubled what the actual statistic was. So that's just a little bit misleading to Craig's number one issue. So I say that with love and some support, I'm more left leaning, and Craig, in my opinion, if family values is a talking point from the right, but yet they vote for someone that's a playboy, divorcee, draft dodging, elitist, family values? No. So, anyways, I don't know if he voted for Trump. I don't know if he voted for Cruz. I don't know if he supports Beto over Abbott. I don't know these things. So, those were the questions I had asked. And to be honest, I don't think I got the answer that would have sufficed me, but I didn't want to push Craig. I just wanted to make sure that, hey, thank you, and let's have this conversation that you're about to see. So hopefully you enjoy it.
I see a lot of people say, oh, you got to keep it civil. Here's the reality, right? The people who don't want to keep it civil are not going to call in because, number one, they're not going to follow the first rule of Fight Club. The first rule of Fight Club is you got to have your camera on, right? That's like the biggest thing. People aren't going to do that because they're scared and they don't want to show their face. So they don't really want to have a conversation. They want to hide behind anonymity. So the idea of keeping it civil is a non-starter because I know you guys are cool. Hey, let's go to the casual radical.
Hey, what's going on, dude?
I'm just hanging out, talking to you guys.
Oh,
are you having a good night?
Hey, you know what? I just want to thank you for just opening it up. You know, I got to talk to you guys with keyboard warrior style back in the day. And then now, you know, here's my face.
There it is. There it is right there. You got some backlight going on. Do you stream and stuff?
It's just a hobby. And, you know, this technology, and I have some kids, if they get curious in making YouTube videos, I want to have that knowledge so I could just pass it to them. And I'm learning.
How old are your kids?
I have a third grader and a kindergartner.
Nice. Okay. So your kids are about the same distance as mine. Are they into YouTube and all that?
Well, not really. They like a lot of hands-on stuff, and they're into acting. They're theater arts, stuff like that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, we try to keep YouTube is a dangerous rabbit hole that you can go down, and you end up finding all sorts of craziness. I don't know if you remember a few years ago they had the stuff with Frozen, and like you'd be watching these fake Frozen characters. People would make these animations, and then they'd end up having sex. You think they're like watching some random like Frozen video on YouTube, and then they end up like screwing each other, and it's like it was really messed up. So that was like, I was like, yeah, you know, like we should probably not just let our kids have YouTube, and we never have. Yeah. But they're aware of YouTube, and now they're aware that their dad spent a lot of time on YouTube. So now they're like starting to get curious.
Well, I mean, technology is going to be with them. I mean, school, they got computers. I mean, the best way is just to educate them and put that parental skill to the test so they can make the right decisions.
What is this parental skill you speak of? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough. And but I'll tell you what, I hope you're enjoying. Are you enjoying being a parent right now? Because being a parent's the best.
Oh yeah. I do. I enjoy it. They're my mini-me's.
I thought you were gonna be like, no, I hate it. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I was like, I want a kid, and boom, I got two. So double the fun. But hey, I do have some questions based on the questions that you have been asking.
Yes.
And you know, I took some notes. It's not going to be very long. You know, I'm not here to make it.
Look at you coming in. Let's go.
Yeah. Fire away. I mean, you can know I'm a political dude, but at the same time, the whole point of politics is to make good arguments. And then online, you're not going to have a lot of people that are willing to do that. Like you said, they hide their face.
Yeah.
And that is something, hopefully a trend that I could, you know, stop. And
I think that's wonderful.
Conversation.
I think that's wonderful. And real quick, before we go any further, like I feel like I have been, because I've had an opinion on things, like I have been labeled as some sort of political dude now. And I would just like to go on the record and say, like, I don't really care about politics, but I know how important they are.
Craig. Politics are everything.
And that's what everybody...
Everything. You go to the store, that's politics. The prices have gone up.
I know. Well,
the cost of childcare, that's politics. Well, and we're about to have Beto and Abbott. I'm kind of curious what your opinion is with that one. Texan to Texan.
Well, Texan to Texan, I think Beto is a fascinating case study of saying one thing and then totally backtracking, you know, like being like, yeah, we're going to take your guns. And then like, oh, you know, well, they're okay, I guess.
Yeah, that wasn't very smart to say in Texas. So
right.
That would be the smart thing to do to try to backtrack that, I would assume. But it does make them look bad.
Yes. You know, it's one of those things where if you look at, like, the dude literally has a rap sheet. You know, like
most politicians do.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I don't like to look at is like the drama, the telenovela kind of crap. I want to see the policies. And how is that going to help or hurt me? Because one of the big issues I had was the grid. And when I see some things like talking about trans or drag queen, I'm like, what about the grid?
Right.
Let's get that fixed, stuff like that.
Yeah. The grid thing was really fascinating to live through, because, we didn't have power for roughly 3 or 4 days. But it was one of those things where, we were fortunate to have friends around us that we could stay with. And the last couple of those days, it didn't have anything to do with the grid, because all of our neighbors had their power, and it just turned out like something was blown on the
pipes froze and they blew up.
It was the transformer that was like just connected to our house messed up. So like all of our neighbors had power, and we were like, why don't we have power? So anyways, it was a big deal. And anyways, we ended up getting power. But yeah, listen, I hear you, right? There's so many things that affect so many people on a large scale. With that said, I do understand the idea of protecting children and protecting childhood more than anything, right? I feel like we're in a big rush to raise kids very quickly, when there should be nothing wrong. I'm not saying you need to like hover over them and shield them, but I do think that there is some magic to, thinking that Santa is a thing.
Yeah, I mean, one of my opinions about that is just addressing poverty, because people are not there to be able to do their job as a parent if they're working. And then your kids are going to get raised with the PlayStation.
Well, let me ask you this then.
Yeah, what's up?
How do you feel about all this money going to Ukraine when we could have spent that money on, I don't know.
Well, I can definitely give you, Biden has made legislation to help with inflation. The Republicans have been fighting it in the Senate and help. I mean, they had price gouging for the gas, because that was a lot of right wingers saying, hey, the gas prices are going up. And I'm like, well, then why didn't you support the legislation to attack the price gouging with the gasoline and all the other legislation that would help the economy? So it's just like, would he have done all of he would have said he done? I don't know. And like currently right now, he's trying to forgive the debt, which was his campaign promise. And then now you're hearing all these diary entries and all that, just like mudslinging political stuff. And I'm not saying the Democrats are innocent, but I'm like, these are the things. Yeah, of course not. But when you look at policy, tell me one thing the Republicans are doing right now to help the economy.
Is there anything they can do to help the economy?
Yeah, that wasn't my question. You're pivoting.
No, I'm not.
They haven't done anything. They just complain and they just like to make drama. That's the thing that really triggers me. It's not the fact that I'm a social justice warrior. I'm like, well, what are the actions you are doing other than just going, like, for example, I'll give you just a crazy story. Texas, when COVID hit, we were like asking Biden for financial aid, the federal government to help out. He came, boom, things got resolved. Georgia, they asked for the federal government to help out, and he got Marjorie Taylor Greene saying, oh, you know what? Biden's going to come down here and we like the Second Amendment. And I'm like, what kind of Southern hospitality is that? The governor of your state is requesting help and Biden's going to help. And then you're encouraging people to practice their Second Amendment. I mean, I just don't know that. And now our Senator Ted Cruz is doing some shindig with MTG. So every time somebody wants to talk about Republicans, which I was a Republican in the past, I was a conservative. I'm still very conservative at home, but just right now the parties, and that's why I'm like, I like to talk to people and I like to explore what they feel like, what would be some solutions and what is their background, like actual legislation.
I think everybody can agree that whether it's the extremes on both sides that really.
What is an extreme Biden supporter like?
Look at Portland.
Well, I don't think they supported Biden.
I mean, look at California. How's that? Maybe just California as a whole.
Well, there's problems in California. Like a lot of people say, poverty. Well, if you were poor and didn't have a house, which state would you want to live in? Would you want to live in hot ass Texas?
I'd want to live in the state that's paying me to live there.
Well, that would be in the weather where it's habitable too.
I would want to do it where I can get away with as much as I can possibly get away with.
True, and the beach, you can just lay down, and the weather's not going to kill you. So, there's a lot of issues, and then that was like my last question I was going to ask you. I didn't want to keep you in keep other people from having the privilege to talk to you. What are two systemic issues that you think that should be prioritized, and what would be some good solutions?
Systemic. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. I don't know, provide me with some examples.
Infrastructure, childcare, probably poverty, because poverty leads to crime in urban areas, and there's a lot of gun violence there too. So all those talking points they're usually with Republicans. They could be addressed if they help in the economic sense.
You know what I think? You know what I think the number one thing would be?
Yes. What would that be?
Stabilizing family units. Stabilizing the family structure.
How would you do that with a solution?
I don't think you incentivize people to have as many babies as they can with as many
but
baby
the middle
daddies
class
as
is
you
shrinking,
can.
So they're not having kids.
Well, what I'm saying is you're essentially, there are programs that incentivize not having a father figure in your life. The idea of the more kids you have, the bigger check you get, right? And
I agree. But the thing is, you're saying some talking points. The reason it's like that is because if they get just a little bit more, which will not be enough to live off, they got to get a more stabilized income. People that are having regular jobs that have college degrees are suffering from inflation. So you're in a situation where you have to lose everything or just get a little bit, and you're still SOL.
I see this in the chat. Snorlax says, aren't something like 60% of Americans growing up without a dad? I think that's legitimately one of the biggest issues is just the lack of fatherhood and adult male figures in kids' lives. I really feel that way. We can talk about infrastructure all we want, and
people get divorced due to economic reasons. So, like I say, it goes back to the money.
But some people also stay together for money reasons. So. Sure. I've known many people who have stayed together just for the financial reasons. They don't live together, but they're technically married, right? Yeah. Just because it costs too much to get a divorce. But yeah, this is all really great conversation, man. I love it, and maybe one day we'll be able to sit down and even talk even more. But when I say let's have a conversation, this is exactly what I'm talking about. So thank you very much.
Well, if you ever want to see conversations, I do have a YouTube channel where I actually talk to pretty much Republicans. Okay. And I've talked to some extreme right wingers, and they just agree to everything I said. I'm just like, okay. So that Cam's interview, it's not that exciting, but if you like dialogue with some solutions, check me out. All right.
Well, thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
No problem. Have a good one.
Bye-bye. All right. There you go. I guess we got into politics. Wasn't expecting that, but sounds good. I love it. It's weird how you can have conversation. Or like, I think a lot of this spurs from like COVID, right? And just having an opinion on how things were handled, and then people, like you can go from just being a dude to being like an extreme right winger really quickly, right? And